Okay, everybody, and we are back. Just a reminder that this is ESA at Jingle Jam. We are here raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We'll get to our second next run in just a quick second, but just a reminder that if you want to make a donation, there's a button below the stream, or you can use !donate in the chat. There's several dealable rewards, or you can go to speedrunstore.com to buy the ESA at Jingle Jam shirt, and £5 of which at the end of the event, £5 of every shirt sold will go into the total that gets added to this for the charity. So we're going to pass it over to our next run now, as you can see on the screen. So I'm going to pass you over to Leah, and it's Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to get right into this. So this is a remake of Donkey Kong Country Returns from the Wii, of course on the Switch. You can play this on the Switch 2 as well, but I do not have a Switch 2, so I'm dealing with the Switch 1 load instead, which are about 10 minutes slower almost for this category. It's pretty insane, but it does mean I have a lot of time to explain things. Real quick, one difference from the Wii version, this is also in the 3DS version, which is criminally underplayed. Is that we have the choice between modern mode and original mode here. We're going to play modern mode today, which is slightly easier, also slightly faster as a result. We get extra health, we can do more damage boosts and cool stuff, and also some extra items, one of which we're going to use towards the end of the run. Although original mode, in theory, is barely any slower. So yeah, my estimate would probably be like 1 minute higher if I were running original mode, but with that out of the way, let's actually check I chose the right mode real quick, I don't trust myself. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started in 3, 2, 1, and go. You will immediately see, this is the effect of the Switch 1 loads, this is going to take absolutely forever. For the record, they're slower than the Wii version loads, and also even slower than the 3DS version loads, which is kind of insane. But this game was built for the Switch too. It was really not meant to be played on Switch 1. And for the record, we do split the categories. We're not insane. But we are insane at the game sometimes, and that's what I'm going to try and do today. So pretty much all of the movement is just rolls and jumps. With DK we are going to be using jumps a lot more because we cannot roll infinitely, but as soon as we get Diddy we can actually roll infinitely, which is pretty much infinitely helpful. Every roll you do will cost 2 frames, so to the best of your ability you want to minimize the amount of rolls you start up. Although you can only really do that so well. There are like a couple easy roll saves we can go for, but in practice it adds up to very little throughout the run. It's more of an important thing if you play ILs a lot, which I do. So kind of the structure of this run is, the first half of the run's fairly easy, but the game takes a bit of a difficulty spike in the second half. So yeah, when you're running for like PBs and stuff, the first half is relatively consistent, but the second half is where like the deaths tend to happen. And for the record, getting a deathless run in this game is really hard. So I won't be surprised if I have a silly death somewhere in the second half in this run. One 2 is quite a difficult level for being this early in the game. Newer players definitely struggle a lot with this one. So this level's cycle-based. There's a cycle we're kind of trying to catch around right here. And further to that, there is a cycle we're going for up here. Don't go too fast, or you won't be high enough to get onto that platform. And very important detail when I'm climbing, I am climbing by holding up left or up right on the D-pad. So I'm using a Pro controller. You can use either the joystick or the D-pad to move, but For climbing, the D-pad specifically is a lot faster. And that's because, for some reason, if you hold up at a 45-degree angle when climbing, you will climb about 1.5 times as fast. And the only way to really do that reliably on Switch is to use the D-pad, because of course it's locked at 8 directions, as opposed to the 360 of the joystick. It's still so unfortunate that no Switch controller, aside from like the GameCube controller, actually has notches on the joystick. 1-3 is pretty chill, not too much going on here. Mr. World 1 is pretty easy, as you'd probably expect. 1-2 is like the main roadblock. You can get Rambi in this level, but he is very slow to get. He's down there, but yeah, we have no reason to get him. We only ever use Rambi in one level in this run, and let me think. He's only in 2 levels in this category. I knew I'd miss that. But we only actually pick him up in one of them because we have to, otherwise he's quite slow to pick up. And unfortunately that's kind of the treatment the Animal Buddies got from the original trilogy when these newer games are being made. The same's kind of true in Tropical Freeze, which, like, both Returns and Tropical Freeze are great games, but they kind of just destroyed the Animal Buddies. I am too young to have played the original trilogy, for the record. So, yeah, they're before my time. This, well, the Wii version of DKCR was my thing when I was growing up. One little detail when we're in these cannon sections here, we are holding in the direction that we're shooting most of the time, because that does actually move you a little bit in that direction, and that big skip I just did there, which is very easy to do by the way, you just pretty much mash through all of them and hold in the direction, is only possible if you do that. But yeah, 1-5 is pretty chill. Second to last level of World 1. It is an autoscroller, but that doesn't mean we don't have anything to say about it. And it is a level that can actually trip you up a surprising amount in runs. It's one of the ones you kind of don't expect, but especially this beginning section can be a nuisance sometimes. Which thankfully we got pretty much perfectly. But trying to do that beginning movement I did can be a pain sometimes because I'm basically clipping onto a ledge from underneath, which requires you to be in like a very specific range on the platform. On Wii, the ledge hop range or ledge clipping range on platforms is quite big, but in the 3DS and Switch ports / remakes, that range is dramatically decreased, so that beginning's quite difficult to do actually. I have like a kind of weird visual cue for it, and that's kind of the only way I can get it consistently, even after several years of playing this game. But yeah, also in the actual minecart section you might notice we're jumping about a whole lot when we've not got anything to dodge, and that is because we can actually affect our speed in the minecart a little bit. For the most part we want to avoid upward slopes like that one, and we want to ride downward slopes to a certain point. We don't want to ride any downward slopes that are too steep. And that's actually kind of it. The minecart physics work a little differently in 3D and HD compared to the original Wii game. On Wii, you also want to be careful and make sure that you don't ride the downward slopes more than you need to, but that's not a thing in 3D and HD. You kind of want to ride them as much as you can. And you'll notice I'll be drawing comparisons between specifically like Wii and then 3D and HD together as kind of like one blob, because DKC Returns HD is heavily based on the 3DS port. That is to say that it has most of the same physics quirks as the 3DS version, but it's at 60 FPS instead of 30 and has a few unique things of its own. But yeah, generally things that work in 3D but not Wii tend to work in HD as well. Anyway, we've got the first boss here. I'm going to try the strat here, which I need to listen to audio for. Nice. So that basically stops him on the left side of the arena. Saves like 3 seconds-ish from him having to run all the way across. Took damage too early there. I liked the damage boost there to get some invincibility frames. Made that last hit a bit easier, but I took damage too early. That's how that should look. If you happen to be inside Mugly, when you've got invincibility frames, the hit will come out as soon as you lose the frames. You can get some really early hits, but you can also, if you're in the wrong spot, just kind of be like bumped to the side, which is not fun. And a thing about bosses, so there are 8 bosses in this game, 8 worlds. 8 worlds, 8 bosses. That is one of only 2 that has no RNG elements. So that boss is really consistent, and it's entirely dependent on gameplay. Some of the other bosses have pretty significant luck requirements, so... well, not requirements, but they can affect our time in ways that we can't really do anything about. But for now we're going into World 2, which is kind of the hardest of the first 4 worlds. There are 3 levels that you can really trip up in this world, and this is one of them. Mostly the second half of this level. That strat is a lot harder on Wii. The thing about the bounce physics in this game, you have a much larger window to get like high fast bounces in HD than you do on Wii. Okay, I did not get that. I haven't missed that in a little while. But that's fine. I was going for a strat that saves about 4 seconds at the ending. I usually get it, maybe like 60% of the time, but yeah, I missed it there. It's quite hard to do, but you can kind of do all of that with basically no waiting. But yeah, I missed the first part of it, so I had to wait for the cycles a little bit. But yeah, 2-1's quite a tough level, honestly. Considered one of the hardest shiny gold medal requirements in a time attack mode, which are basically the dev medals, the platinum relics of this game. And you can very easily trip up and die in 2-1. Is quite chill. Not too much going on here, really. Just a pretty simple level, except for the second half. The second half's a bit more complicated, but... that is one of the most out-of-the-way Kong letters at the K in the background there. For the record, we don't need Kong letters in this category, but if we were playing all stages, or pretty much any other category, we would need to get them. If you collect all of the Kong letters in a world, then you will unlock the secret stage in that world. And of course, if you're doing all stages, you need to, well, do all stages. Kind of goes without saying, but yeah, we don't really have to worry about them. For the most part, they're not too far out of the way, either way. In Wii and 3D, there is a fast cycle you can go for here, but it is not a thing in HD. They just completely changed the cycles for some reason, so... it's a little slow compared to those games, but it does mean it's way easier, way more consistent. So we're coming up to our first rocket level here. There are two types of autoscroller in this game, pretty much. Three types, actually, but only two that are relevant to this run. There are the minecarts, which you've already seen, and the rocket levels. Now, the minecarts, you can do stuff to speed them up. The rocket levels, you can't really do anything. You have to press the button 5 times to launch a rocket. In 3DS version, you have to only do it 3 times, which is quite nice. But yeah, press it 5 times, and then there is pretty much nothing you can do to speed this up. There are 3 banana coins we can get in this level, which I'll get down for in a sec, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, there's about like a minute and a bit if there's anything that the hosts would like to read out for this level.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have one donation man, who just says Merry Christmas to ESA. Let's help make a wish happen for someone today. Looking forward to watching some great runs on my wife's son. Thank you very much for your donation. Just a reminder everyone to get your donations in. Obviously all donations benefit Make-A-Wish. You can make several redeems, one of which being the game bundle for all donations which are £35 or above. You'll also have the option to go to speedrunstore.com to get your ESA at Jingle Jam shirt. £5 of which for every shirt bought go to the total at the end of the event. So yeah, make sure ! donate in the chat if you want to donate, or there's a button below the stream. Back over to you.
Alright, that level's out the way now. If you're playing all puzzles, which is a really cool underrated category by the way, one of the worst things you can do is forget that there's a puzzle piece right at the end there after you finish the autoscroller. So don't do that. And another really chill level here. This is also one of the only levels where RNG comes into play in a level that's not a boss. Although it's quite minor, it only amounts to, at worst, like a second. Rolling over that gap is something you can not really do on Wii very consistently. Just tiny physics quirks between the versions that you kind of get accustomed to if you play all 3 of them. We're going to get hit here. That is one of the RNG things. Most of the time you don't get hit there, but if you're unlucky, then you get hit. And I actually need to be careful now, because I do not want to lose Diddy for the next level. Depending on my luck here, I hopefully won't lose Diddy. Oh dear. That won't be a massive problem. I have not lost Diddy in this level in quite a while, actually. That was... You technically don't have to lose him, but if you take an extra hit than what you're supposed to, like I did there, I took one hit that just wasn't RNG, that was just me messing up. So, yeah, here we are. This is one of the other levels in World 2 that can really mess you up if, yeah, it's one of the harder levels in World 2, and the early game in general. It's a very fun one though, I really like playing this. I have to do the beginning a little awkwardly now, because I just lost Diddy. Just take damage boost here. That looks a lot cleaner if you actually have Diddy, but of course we don't. There's a little strat I'm going to go for in like 5 seconds that I just recently learned. I'm going to be trying it and run for the first time. Yeah, nice. That kind of one-sided wall grab there. It's something that's... It's been a strat forever, but I've pretty much only just decided to learn it in like the IL in HD, and I found it's actually very easy to do in HD. It's a lot harder on Wii, but I can definitely do it in runs here. Doesn't save a whole lot, but it is faster, so... You know. Whatever you can really do. Now if I start with Diddy, that should be pretty much a free gold. I know you can't see my splits, but I don't have a gold with that, so it'll be a pretty easy gold next time I run this category. Provided I start with Diddy. I care way too much about, like, exact gold times and stuff. I've retimed all of my golds for this category. Did a frame. I have like a notepad document with all of them. As well as like all of my best paces and stuff. That's the kind of stuff I do in speedrunning. I like numbers. Speaking of numbers, 2-7, I know, creative way to transition out of that, is kind of another level that you can trip, like, very easily get tripped up in, and probably quite an infamous level casually. Gotta make sure to not do anything silly in the second half there. But yeah, this is probably... I think this is one of the levels that took them the longest to develop in this game. Be careful there, if I were a bit further to the right I probably would have been hit, and for the record that wave is a one-hit kill. But yeah, I heard this level took them like 6 months to develop in the Wii version. Oh, whoops. Yeah, one of the 2 levels that took them the longest, along with one of the bosses later on. So the boss of World 2 is, honestly not a whole lot to say about it. It does technically have RNG in it, but it is very minor. It very rarely causes huge problems. Well, pretty much never, actually. Pretty much any problems here are player-caused. I have to boot these guys 3 times, and then they will stack up. And then we beat up the stack, and then we rinse and repeat, and that's it. They can spawn either there, closer to the middle, or they can spawn a bit further to the left. Ideally, you want them to spawn closer to the left each time. It doesn't matter much in the first phase there, because they walk quite slowly as a stack, but in the second phase, they will walk a bit more quickly. So it does kind of matter that we get them on the left here, but usually we do. I'm going to jinx myself now. Okay, no, we actually got it. I'm standing in a very specific spot as well, because they won't come up close to us. Zone out for a sec. They will not come up where DK is, pretty much, so stand in a specific spot, you can kind of prevent them from spawning on the right side of the arena. If they were to spawn on the right side, that would be quite slow, because they always move to the right, and the sooner they touch the right wall, if they do at all, the longer they will take to raise their arms. So yeah. You can have it that they raise their arms before they even get to the right wall, which is quite rare, but it is very fast if that happens. But even then there's only like a 2-second difference between best and worst patterns there, so It's mostly a problem in ILs again. We're now entering the second shortest world in the run. World 3 only has 5 levels that we're going to play. But they're all pretty unique. And I also quite like the ones that we don't play World 3. All stages is a cool category. All of the categories in this game are cool. But all stages are probably my favourite. Ironic because I've not actually run it on Switch yet, but on Wii, all stages is amazing. Speaking of, the Switch and 3DS versions of DKCR have 8 additional levels at the end of the game, which we don't see in any percent, but we do see in all the other categories. And they are very good levels, actually. They are very, very fun to run through. So 3-2 is the longest normal level in the game that is not a boss. It's kind of got a bit of everything. Starts out pretty slow. It's very important that we do not miss any bounces in this section. But beat these guys up. There we go. Especially important if you're running original mode or the Wii version, that you get all those bounces because you need coins. The coin route is quite tight in original mode and on Wii, and you really kind of need all of those coins from those guys. There aren't many backups beyond this point before you need to spend those coins. You can hit 2 of these buttons at a time, but it's risky. Not worth. This is a cool strat that I missed. You can stand on that button and it saves like a second if you jump off it, rather than pressing the button down and then shooting back across. That was found by a random German guy who was basically never in the community on Wii, and like we just uncovered his video on YouTube like several years later. Speaking of Germans, Germans love this game, and Tropical Freeze. We have like a surprisingly large German community. It is probably our largest community, actually. You know, we got a couple, DKCR does well with the British runners as well, myself included. But yeah, loads of German runners across both this game and Tropical Freeze. It was really cool. We've also been seeing a Japanese community come about since the release of Returns HD, which has been really cool. Right. So we just picked up a map key. If you look at the map here, you've got this top path that we're going to go down. We've also got the bottom path there. Not only does the bottom path take us through one extra level, whoops, I menu slightly. Not only does it take us through one extra level, but those 2 levels on the bottom path are also way slower than this level. We're pretty much replacing like 2 levels that are like a minute 15 with one 45-second level. So yeah, this is easily the fastest shot path in the game, or key path rather. So it makes sense that we would get it in any percent, because we don't have to do the bottom path. Unless you're playing any percent shopless. And honestly, the levels that you skip are actually kind of cool. I kind of like them more than this one, but this level's still okay. This level is a lot harder on Wii, but it's pretty consistent in HD, as far as runs go. That's ending section here. We're going to stall here just a sec. We want to activate that platform without activating the shark. If we activate the shark too early, then it will get us during that last jump, which we obviously don't want. Alright, Animal Buddy Lovers, this is the only time we're going to see one in this run. And it's Rambi, of course, because he's the only one in this game. This is the only level where we use him because we kind of have to. So as far as Rambi goes, I mentioned that each roll with DK and Diddy takes 2 frames to start up. With Rambi, each charge takes 4 frames to start up, so he's a bit clunkier, a bit heavier, a bit slower. Not actually slower in terms of speed, but, you know. This block breaking section here is kind of awkward. The exact way you go into it kind of affects how you get the blocks to break. We got the best Like, it's not RNG, but it's just really weird to manipulate. We got the best set. We got the best possible second set, but not a very good first set. Yeah, most of this level is pretty easy. I am keeping my fingers firmly away from the grab button at all times because that dismounts Rambi, which would be really bad, so please do not do that. And yeah, you can just run over those gaps. It looks really scary, but it works 100% of the time. Free 8 frames of time save.
Do you have time for one quick donation?
After this level's got a lot to explain.
No problem.
So this is the first major RNG point in the game. We're gonna hit this boss 6 times with bombs. He's split into 2 phases. He will go into his second phase after he hits 3 bombs. After he takes 3 hits. There are like a million different patterns we can get, so we're just gonna see what we end up with here. So ideally, we get given 3 bombs like that, which is very nice. Thank you. So we're gonna wait specifically here because there's like a 90% chance he goes to the right, but there's like a very small chance he goes to the left. Okay. So ideally, we just get given bombs here. Okay, no. We are not going to hit him there. You do not want to have him on specifically 4 hits. What you want to do instead is that. If we had gone for that cheeky hit there and gotten down to 4 hits, or, you know, have done 4 hits on him, then he would have taken way longer to get us the last bombs we needed, so if that happens, and you have him on 3 hits in the second phase, just wait a little bit, he'll chuck bombs all across, and then you can chuck 3 of them at once, and yeah, pretty much GG from there. So that was a 30-42 World 3 exit, which is pretty alright. My best is a 31x, but 42 is pretty decent. Going into World 4 now, World 4 is the shortest world in the run, also probably the easiest. And the gimmick of this world is that every level is an auto-scroller. So with that in mind, there's like a little bit of gameplay at the beginning of this level, but with that in mind, I think I can pass over to the host for a little bit here.
Thank you very much. We have one £5 donation from Ruben LS3. Thank you very much. No message there, but we appreciate you making the donation. Thank you very much. Just a reminder, guys, we will be live all this weekend up until tomorrow night for Jingle Jam at ESA. If you want to get a lead on what games are coming up, then you can put !schedule in the chat and you can see a list of all the great ones we've got. Also, please make sure to get your donations in across this time because it is all for the benefit of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. A really great organisation doing some really great work. Thank you.
If you look closely, you'll notice this is not quite the exact same as 1.6, the other minecart level we played. We're actually standing in the minecart this time. There are crystals all in it, so we can't sit in it. And I much prefer these standing minecart levels. There are an equal amount of them in the game as the sitting ones. Kind of a shame they didn't do more with it, but I like the levels we did get here. They are probably the best auto-scrolls in the game. And we got another one right after, so I don't have to worry about saying everything about standing minecart levels in this level. But yeah, kind of an evolution of the original concept. But yeah, if you look at the map here quickly, we only got 4 levels we play in this one, and then we're straight out of it. At best, it takes about 8.5 minutes to do this world, so yeah, really quick one. And with Switch 2 though, that's almost like a minute faster. But yeah, super quick world. I totally forgot to point out in the loading screen just now, this level's called Grip and Trip. The and in the name is written with an ampersand in this game, but in Wii and 3D, if you're in the PAL region, it is so PAL on Wii and European is for 3D. It is written with apostrophe and apostrophe, so grip and trip, and only written with an ampersand in North America. But they made it the same across all regions in its game, which makes me sad, but I get it. I'm sad. Sad British noises. The nice thing about these standing minecart levels compared to the sitting ones is that you can very seamlessly transition between being in the autoscroller and just doing normal gameplay like this. It's really cool, and it's a shame that they didn't do more with it. There's one more of these levels later on, much later on, but yeah. At least there are more of them than the sitting ones in any percent specifically. We're gonna make another shopping trip after this level. If you were running low on coins at this very moment, you could go into that background path there and pick up 4 extra. It is a very slow path, takes a couple extra seconds, but as a last resort, that is something you can do. But in modern mode, you are highly unlikely to ever run out of coins, because the shop prices are cheaper in modern mode. So, it's like last time, I'm going to buy the key. Might be wondering what all of those other items are. One of them is going to come into play later on, but for the most part we're just going to ignore them. A few of those items are modern mode exclusive, or modern mode in HD, new mode in 3D exclusive. But yeah, very few of them actually contribute to letting us go fast. I say very few, but not zero. Wink wink. But that's going to come into play a little later. For now, we have another rocket level. This level has no coins that we can get or anything, but I mean, visually it's a pretty fun autoscroller though. And it's also one of the shortest rocket levels. The rocket level we played earlier is about 20 seconds longer than this one, so yeah, this one's quite quick. Also, you can pop those balloons if you want to be really mean. I think as far as the lore goes, all of these moles are just actually hypnotized working against you. So it's kind of mean that we can do this to them, but I don't make the rules. You're even incentivized to do it because you get a puzzle piece for doing it right here. So you cannot save the animals in all puzzles, I'm afraid. Alright, speaking of moles, we are going to be killing about like 30, a bit over 30 of them in this level. So look away if you really like moles and don't like seeing DK bonk them on the head. This is a really interesting boss. There are quite a few ways this can go. This is split up into 3 kind of whack-a-mole phases, and then there's a big guy at the end. These whack-a-mole phases, they're kind of pace-locked. I'll explain how in the next phase. But that was a good phase. We're definitely going to make the pace lock here. And there is like a big auto-scroll section you're supposed to go through, but there's also a completely intentional skip you can do there. You are required to do that for the time attack gold medal. So each phase can only start in increments of about 2 seconds. We are definitely missing this cycle because we got unlucky there. Oh, that's lucky. Almost got screwed there by the fact that the train went down right as we needed to jump off. Also, for the record, you can tell how far away the train will be at any given point. It's based on the last minecart that's left standing in the previous phase. But right here, gotta hit this guy 4 times. There's like no time to explain anything in this level. Hit this guy 4 times. The safe spots are the first 2 minecarts at shape. Alternatively, you can plunge yourself right into the middle where he's going to show up and try and get a cheeky hit on him. That was a pretty good fight still. We got kind of unlucky with the second whack-a-mole phase, but that was alright. So that was a 39:30 World 4 exit. My best is just short of a 38, but I mean 39:30 on the dot is pretty good still. Nobody's complaining about that. If they get that in a run. So I kind of hinted at this at the beginning, but the second half of the game, from War 5 onwards pretty much, even though this doesn't mark the halfway point in terms of time just yet, War 5 onwards is considerably harder than the rest of the game, so some people like to joke and say the game starts in War 5. The run starts in War 5. It's kind of true. I mean, this level's quite chill, but the next couple levels are pretty scary. I would go as far as saying World 5 is the second hardest world in the run. Even though this game, I mean, the category has 8 worlds, I'd say this is the second hardest. Only behind World 7, which is really something of its own. Also cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah, this level's pretty chill. This is mostly an autoscroller, kind of. Not really autoscroller, but like pseudo-autoscroller, just wait a lot. Intentionally delay jumping onto that vine next. As soon as I jump onto that, that cheeky will activate. Be kind of tight for room getting onto that platform if I activate him too early. Starts moving too early. We wait a little bit here. One thing about 5.1 is that the control scheme you're using is relevant. As to say, the in-game you have the choice of 2 control schemes. You have either default, which puts the roll buttons, so it puts roll and pound on X and Y on a Pro Controller. Or you have alternate, which puts grab to those buttons instead and maps roll to L and R. I prefer playing with L and R for roll, but there is a disadvantage to using the alternate control scheme in game, which is that you can't hover past vines at full speed, which is really relevant for 5.1. You lose pretty much like a full second if you can't do that. So what you can do instead is, if you prefer those controls like I do, you can just use the fact that the Switch has an inbuilt controller remapping thing, which I completely forgot about until like 2 months after this game released, until it was pointed out to me. But yeah, it's a really nice thing if you prefer those controls. 5.2, we just had a pretty bad beginning there. This is a really cool level, one of the coolest levels in the game, I think. Definitely in this category. There is so much cool stuff you can do here. That's kind of scuffed. But at full speed, this level is amazing. This last section has a couple strats we're going to go for. Kind of scary ones, and then some not so scary ones. I won't be surprised if I die going for the final strat in this level, but I would like to go for it just for... It would be cool. So... Oh, whoops, I did not get a roll then, I thought I would. Right, try this. Nice. That is quite a tough strat there, and definitely a very scary one. And for the record, that doesn't even say that much. It's kind of like, why would you go for this? But I just started going for it because you can kind of tell if you practice it enough. You can kind of tell if you're going to make it or not, and if you know you're not going to make it, you can kind of pull back. But yeah, you have to jump within like a 3-ish frame window there. And then the hover is also needs to be done at a certain time. But yeah, it's not the worst thing ever, but it's still kind of scary every time I go for it. It is harder than on Wii as well. It's a bit easier on Wii. This is another really important level. This section right here. Nice. You might be wondering why I did all those bounces. I needed to land a bit further along on this one platform that's moving against me, so I'd be moved back a bit less. And yeah, kind of complicated to explain, but basically lets you go a couple seconds faster in that section if you make the cycle. This jump's also pretty scary. But I mean, trust me, it's not as hard as it looks. That jump still kind of freaks me out every time. Yeah, just like that, that's pretty much 5-3. There are 2, like, really scary sections, and then that's kind of it. It is very easy to die in that level. Like, if you're gonna take a death in a run, it's probably gonna be in 5-3. This next level is also pretty scary. So, 5-2, 5-3, and 5-4, I like to call them the Gauntlet of World 5. They're definitely the 3 hardest levels to do well in the world. There are like 2 other gauntlets later on. This game gets pretty hard. But yeah, if you die in this level, you will have to play pretty much the whole thing without Diddy, because you do not get him back until the very end, at which point you should just kind of wait until the next level, because he's right at the start of the next level, but yeah. Also means in the time attack mode you have to play this level without Diddy. I've had a silly death in this next section right here. 2 runs in a row, so cool, I didn't do it again. It's mostly this last checkpoint section that's by far the hardest part of this level. Okay, that's fine. We didn't die. I messed up a little bit there. This is the bonus room entry. To save the run. Normally, falling in that pit would mean GG, you died, but there happens to be a bonus room right there, so as a last resort like that, it is a bit faster to go into that bonus room and wait for it to kind of play out than it is to take a death in that level. You really should never see that outside of all puzzles, but it's kind of a really situational backup, but sometimes you have to do it. But yeah, that wasn't the best gauntlet, really. 5-2 and 5-4, both kind of messy, but eh. I've still got 3 levels in World 5, and all of them have things I'm looking to hit. This level 5-5 is pretty chill. It's kind of a nice break. There is one strat towards the end that I would really like to hit, but in practice it's only like a 20% hit rate at best. So I won't be surprised if I miss it. But yeah, this is one of the easiest levels to make look cool. Like, there's very little speed tech in this level, you just do cannon shots well. You can buffer those 2, but the last one there cannot be buffered. And right here, grab right a few bounce. Okay, we did not get it. So a little thing with bounces in this game, specifically HD, which they introduced in Tropical Freeze, and then they brought it to HD, which is really cool, is that when you are bouncing on an enemy, you can... there's a bit of an extended window to get a high bounce. So like you have like up to like 4 or 5 frames after a bounce to actually input the high bounce. Which is really cool. That was one of the main problems with Wii. Like, it was very hard to get those high bounces sometimes. They fixed that. the effect that has is that you can get a neutral bop on an enemy and then intentionally delay the high bounce so that you get the neutral bop for a couple frames and then you get the high bounce. So in fact you go a bit higher and a bit further. And at the end of 5-5, if you get a maximum delayed high bounce, you can completely break the ending section, which looks really cool, but I almost never hit it, so I'm not surprised I didn't hit it there. But if you have spare time, go and watch the time attack world record for 5-5, because it will blow your mind. You won't believe what happens in this DKC Returns speedrun. Red arrows on the thumbnail. Full clickbait. There is a strat we can try and hit here. Probably not going to hit it, but... okay. There's another thing I tried to go for there. If you bounce on a springy thing like that, and you grab right before the apex of your bounce, and continue holding the jump button the whole time, if you have Diddy on top of doing that, you can sometimes... well no, if you hit the perfect frame, you can get kind of an extra vertical boost, which is really weird. I don't know why that happens, but you can basically skip a cannon in that last section and save 0.8 if you get that. But to cap off World 5, we have quite a difficult boss here, so I'm going to try and lock in for this unless I mess up the strat. This boss has no RNG, it's just really difficult execution. Nice. First phase is the hardest part. Nice. That was a really good 5B. Pretty much perfect. I've messed that up like the past 5 runs in a row and I finally actually got it again. Nice, that was really good. That boss can go off script very easily if you do like anything wrong. That is one of the... definitely the hardest boss execution wise, and probably in the... would I say top 5 rolls in the run, execution-wise? Possibly. There is a much safer strat you can go for, but that fast strat there saves like 7 seconds, and you can actually get some pretty good consistency with it. I could not speak English there. You could actually get some pretty good consistency with it if you practice a lot. So yeah, that was a bit of a messy World 5 overall. Kind of not surprising, it is the second hardest world for a reason. At least I got that boss strat though. World 6, and I hope I don't jinx myself by saying this, I'd say it's the easiest of the second half. Or, it's like on par with World 8. I think World 8 or World 6 could take the title of easiest world in the second half, but that does still mean it's like the 3rd or 4th hardest world in the run. And World 6 is, I believe, the longest, yeah, it is the longest world in the run. We'll be here quite a while. The beginning of this level can be a bit of a pain if you happen to lose Diddy in 5B. But otherwise, it's a pretty nice, consistent level. Very fun one to do quickly. So we've got another sitting minecart level here. There's this one jump that I do not trust here, so I'm going to make sure I hit it. Okay. I have died to that in a run a couple times. It's kind of embarrassing to die in an auto-scroller. Just for the record, I never pointed this out, but in auto-scrollers, so in minecart levels, rocket levels, and to some extent standing minecart levels, everything is a one-hit kill. The health bar in the top corner is a lie. So yeah. Oh, that was kind of sketch. So yeah. In Tropical Freeze they did fix this, they do actually give you hit points in auto-scrollers, but in Returns, one hit and it's GG. So yeah, don't touch anything. And thankfully this is the last sitting minecart level in the run. Only 2 of them. There is one we didn't play in World 4, but yeah. And there is one more standing minecart level towards the end, which is a lot cooler than this. But the next level... Actually, the next couple levels are quite interesting. Some of my favourites in the run actually coming up. The world map likes to lag a lot going into that level for some reason on Switch 1. The lag basically doesn't exist on Switch 2, but again, this game was built for the Switch 2, but you can play it on the Switch 1 as well, so... Yeah, I never mentioned the lag until now, but it is a thing. So 6-3 is a fantastic level. This is an S tier level, and pretty much everyone who's played this game, like, pretty much everyone who's speedrun this game agrees this is an S tier level. Like, this was made for speedrunning. Oh dear. That has not happened. I'm not going to say that's literally never happened. That's probably happened to people before. Not happened to me before. Alright, that's not a huge problem. There's the first death in the run. In the wall that I said was the easiest in the second half. Yeah, my bounce kind of got eaten because I got hit immediately. But Diddy's right here. Relatively small death because there are a bunch of checkpoints in this level. There are some way worse deaths you can take. And again, like, deathless runs are super hard. But yeah, everyone agrees this level's amazing. Definitely built for speedrunning. So many intentional skips you can do. Like, obviously there are a lot of puzzles in this level, but you can skip pretty much all of them. And if you get into the IL side of things, there are some crazy things you can do here, especially on Wii. Yeah, it was only about a 15-second death-ish. Six-four. Boulder Roller, that's a fun name. One might say that sums up the experience of speedrunning. But this level is really cool as well. Another one of my favourites, probably. This level has just the tiniest bit of sentimental value to me, because I was the first person to get sub-minute here on Wii, in time attack mode. In HD as well, but there's less competition. It looks a lot scarier than it is. You have to intentionally wait here. Not just for those boulders, there's also this one that is also activated as soon as you get into that section. You gotta wait for it. I'm going to be taking a bunch of damage boosts here, so this section is going to look a little sketchy. but it is the fastest way to get through it. And the level is capped off with this giant fella here. And that guy's a one-hit kill. You start to notice things are just one-hit kills in this game, even outside of autoscrollers. But yeah, depending on how you...
the next level for a donation?
Yeah, sure. There's not too much going on in this level, so yeah.
Just very quickly, we have a £45 donation from Anonymous. No message, but we really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
This is one of the few levels we are forced to start without Diddy, because, yeah, it's just much faster to lose Diddy in 6-4. So yeah, one of the only ones we actually start without Diddy pretty much 100% of the time. The exception is in the other categories, where you would play 6-5, which is not in this run, but 6-5 you would play second in other categories because you do actually have Diddy at the end of that level. But yeah, it doesn't change too much in this level. So this level's kind of just like, just go back and forth, pretty much. It's very, very segmented, this level. And this kind of entire last section is dominated by this guy who's chasing us. Probably won't be surprised to hear that guy is a one-hit kill. I jumped over a gap right there where that flying tiki was. You can roll over that on Wii, but you cannot on Switch. That tripped up a bunch of people around the release of HD. Because if you try and roll over that, you will just bonk the wall and die on Switch. Oh, whoops. Speaking of bonking walls, if you grab into a wall or a ceiling, you can kind of stick into it without getting like a hard bonk off it, which is really useful in a few situations. Especially that ending jump there over the fence. It works really weirdly with ceilings. Oh, also the game fakes you out here, makes you think that's the last level before the boss. Nope. 2 more levels. Alright, the level after 6-6. I shall not say the numbers out loud, because I've learnt my lesson from like the past 3 or so marathon runs I've done for this game. To not say those numbers out loud, in this day and age. Right, the level before 6-8. This is a pretty fun one as well, another one of my favourites in World 6. World 6 is probably just like one of the best worlds for speedrunning, it's so good. I'd say like World 6 and World 5 are my favourites for speedrunning. Be really careful with those platforms. They can sometimes not be tangible when you think they should be, and that can really trip you up sometimes. You get caught on that one platform like 90% of the time, by the way. It's only if you do the jump pretty much perfectly you get past it cleanly. HD likes to clip you onto platforms that you really shouldn't be clipped onto. I also intentionally hovered in that foreground section. That was because the vines in the background there were already activated. If you don't slow down a little bit, you'll be too fast for them, so it is worth it to slow down a little bit. And apparently that was a gold split. I will need to retime that. But apparently that is a gold. You know what? Not complaining. So the second to last level of World 6, and the last normal level, of course. This level's got a lot of global cycles going on, so we don't need to actually go that fast in the first part of the level to catch them. I know throughout the whole level, actually, we don't really need to go that fast. And in fact, going too fast will often be the death of you in this level. Has been the death of me a couple times, for sure. Like, in theory, there is a fast cycle you can make, but it's just not really viable for runs. But yeah, all of this stuff is activated from the very beginning of the level. So just looking to catch stuff at very specific times. Got a lot of leeway. Ultimately, it kind of comes down to this part. We kind of can't shoot any earlier than that, and by extension, it comes down to these guys. So kind of go full speed from here, but only kind of. Because if you go too fast again, you're going to be kind of paced locked by these last couple cannons. If you are way too fast, which I have been in one run, which actually caused me a death, you can kind of completely shoot over the penultimate cannon there, which is one of the funniest but most tragic ways to die in a run. It's like a 30-second time loss if that happens, so easiest thing is to just not go way too fast. Alright, 6B. In theory, this is the longest level in the run. I say in theory because depending on the RNG in the next two bosses, those two could very well be longer than this. In fact, they probably will be, but as far as like best theoretical time goes, this is the longest level in the game, and definitely the longest boss as well. And the time attack comes in at about 2.5 minutes for this. This boss does have RNG. And there's nothing in the first phase though, this first phase is the same every single time. And I should give a volume warning for this level. I will warn you in advance when the lag parts are coming up, but they did a horrible job with audio bouncing in this level. Okay, turn your volume down in like 5 seconds, trust me. You've been warned. You can turn it back up now. Yeah, they did a pretty inexcusably horrible job of balancing the audio there in this remake. It's not like that on Wii. It is in 3D, but like a lot of like the janky stuff in the 3DS version I'm willing to forgive because it's on the 3DS. But some of that stuff they carried into this Switch remake, which I am not willing to forgive. They had like 12 years to spot that mistake since the 3DS version was released, and they did not. And it is coming up again. I'll warn you again when it happens. Alright, turn volume down again in like 5 seconds. Alright, if you can hear me, you can have volume up for the rest of the run now. There's nothing more that's stupidly loud like that. As far as the actual RNG in this fight goes, it is... in this one attack he's going to do right now, after this one, where he will chase us into the wall and then bonk his silly little head and fall back, and if he's very nice like he was just then, he will fall back very, very quickly. That is a short walk. He does that. He can give us a medium or a long walk as well. So I think he gave us a medium and a short there, which is good. I've actually never had short plus short in a run somehow. You think it's like a 1 in 9 chance, but I've done way more than 9 runs in this game, but somehow I've never had short plus short. In HD at least. Yeah, that's Ward 6 done. That is the longest ward in the run. That was like okay overall. Obviously I had that 6-3 death. Aside from the 6-3 death, that was kind of fine. So I alluded to this earlier, Ward 7 is considered by the vast majority of runners to be the hardest ward in the run. It's not the longest, it's the second longest, but it is definitely... there are a lot of levels here that are really tough. And kind of decisive levels as far as like getting an actual run here goes. This really makes or breaks a run. Even this first level here is pretty innocent and affect your run. pull back a little bit there. Nice, that was clean. Gonna be taking quite a few damage boosts here. And by quite a few I mean 2. Never mind, I completely forgot to take the damage boost there. In my defense, I was just running original mode a couple days ago, where I would not take that damage boost because I'd have 1 less heart on Diddy, so yeah, that's fine. I barely lost any time to not take that. And getting Diddy down to 1 heart before that last checkpoint there is kind of scary because there's a decent chance you get hit and lose him if you miss kind of like the last important strat in the level. Which would mean you start the next level without Diddy. It's not the worst thing ever to do that, but like it can make the next level a bit scary. And it already is kind of scary, actually. Oh yeah, a couple of the map nodes in World 7 are like 0.7 seconds to cross instead of 0.5. I don't know why they did that, but yeah. Menuing things. Right. The thing where you grab against the wall is super useful there. And super useful again in a couple seconds. That is a really sketchy bit of movement. There are like a bunch of different ways you can do that. You have to be really fast getting into that yellow crusher to make that cycle. A bunch of different ways people have of doing that. That's the one that works the best for me, but it's still kind of sketchy. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I'm not going to try that. Missing a cycle. The cycle's going to be different now. It doesn't matter either way. Also, not a huge deal to lose Diddy. We get him back immediately in the next level. That was a bit of a mess. Yeah, losing that cycle at the end lost me about 5 seconds. Alright. Final shopping trip there. Might have noticed we bought more than just the key that time. Stay tuned, we'll find out very shortly what that other thing is for. But now, 7-3. The shortest level in World 7 by quite a bit. And it's pretty chill, I'd say it's second easiest level in World 7. And yeah, we don't have to worry about losing Diddy in the previous level because we're getting right back here and we have to wait for that hand to go down there anyway, so yeah, no time loss. You have to be pretty fast in this section to do this strat, which is rolling straight onto those hands there without jumping onto them. The sooner you land on those 4 hands there, the sooner the cannon will come across from the other side of the screen. So ideally you just roll straight onto them, but you can only do that if you're fast. If you're too slow, then you will bonk and yeah, just don't do that. Alright, what we're going to do here, we're going to not forget to equip this item as I sometimes do. Menu into inventory, use the green balloon. Good job, Leah. Sometimes I forget to do that, and I feel really silly when I forget to do that, but no, we remembered, it's fine. Which lets me hopefully show off one of the most ingenious strats in this game. So that green balloon there, that will save you from a fall in most cases. So if we fall into a pit, that will kind of slowly float us back up. The thing about that is that it kind of lets you clip through walls. There's a really cool thing we can do right here. You're supposed to stand on top of that wheel, pound the top of it, and then wait for it to really slowly turn around, and then for you to be let into this. But you can just do that. That is one of the most ingenious strats in this game. That is modern mode exclusive, because the green balloon only exists in modern mode. And yeah, that saves like 12 seconds, I think. It's quite a big time save, considering it's not at all difficult to do. In fact, that actually just makes the level way easier. The other thing about this level is it's cycle-based. So a lot of local cycles, but there is a very important global cycle going on pretty much, well, you know, globally. Right here. That last moving piece is activated the moment you enter the level. It even moves when you're in the switch room. Speaking of, you might be wondering what that switch room was about. So the next, well, that level and the next two ones, that level and the next two levels, my tenants have got these square nodes on the map. They have a switch that you need to find in the level. You need to complete all three of them and find a switch in them to be able to actually progress to the end of this world. If you miss one of them, then it just won't unlock the next level. So yeah, find. They're pretty easy to find, but... 7-6. I jumped too early there. Well, I'm going to play it. Playing it safe there. If I had jumped too early there, I would have activated the colour platforms, and they might have just killed me on the spot if I didn't do that hover for safety. If you get like pushed out of the level by the platforms, that will just kill you on the spot. So yeah, be really careful. This middle section of the level is really chill, but the ending is really hard in this level. This is probably one of the hardest levels in the run, or in the game in general. So pretty much this last checkpoint onwards here. This can be kind of luck-based. No, I didn't get it. Okay. I made do with what I got there. There's that one switch I tried to activate by rolling onto it, and it didn't work. It works like half the time. There's this thing I've not mentioned yet, which is kind of a sucky part of this game's physics, called oscillation. So when DK's rolling, his hitbox is not a perfect circle, it's kind of like an egg shape. So sometimes, depending on when you start your roll, or depending on where you start your roll rather, sometimes he will hit that switch, sometimes he won't. But yeah, not much time to talk about 7-6 here, because this level is... You could write like a 600-page essay on this level. This is the most messed up level in the game. Oh, we got the fast cycle activation. It's already kind of messed up. Sometimes the level starts to cycle earlier, like it did here. There's no way to manipulate that. Okay. Well, that already means I can't talk about a lot on this level. That's fine. If I were to explain... Whoops. I've not actually died there in a little while. I think I just forgot the movement. If I were to explain everything in this level, oh my, I'm having a moment here. You'd probably get tired of me saying the word cycle. If I were to explain absolutely everything in this level. Okay, there we go. Kind of messy, that works. But yeah, this level is made up entirely of really weird local cycle activations. Yeah, we're actually kind of on script here. That's fine. This is the cycle I was originally going for, and then I messed up, which led to 3 deaths. Hey, we're kind of back on track. Depending on what fire bar is active when you enter the switch room, one or the other will be active when you leave it. Okay. You know, my movement would have been totally fine now if it were for the triple death there. And that is not surprising remotely, because that is probably one of the levels you are most likely to die in. If not the most. That is, yeah, probably the hardest level to not die in a run. No matter how much you practice that, there's always going to be something that just defies your expectations in a run. It looks incredible when it's done well, but it's very, very hard to do it well. It's kind of a pain to even practice it because you can't re-enter the switch rooms after you do them on a file. What you kind of need to do is have like a file set up that has the levels unlocked but without the switches pressed. And you can just copy and paste that to practice them. It's particularly 7.5 and 7.7 that you need to practice because they're all cycle based and stuff. 7.6 doesn't really have anything important that you need to switch for in terms of practice. But yeah, so if you like fail in any percent run in like, I don't know, like World 4 or something, you can just take like 30 minutes out of your day and then like set up a practice file from that. Probably the best way to do it. Like you can practice them without the switch, but yeah, not entirely the same thing. And that's where having multiple accounts on the Switch comes in handy, because you only have 3 files per account. But just have 2 accounts, and you have 6 files to play with. All kinds of practice files and stuff. Alright, so cap off this hot mess of a world, we've got one of the biggest hot messes of a boss in the game. And execution-wise, I would say this is the second hardest boss, but not for the reasons you'd think. Let's explain during the fight, because we've got like 30 seconds of waiting right here. This boss is split up into 2 phases. In the first phase, we will need to hit him 3 times, which means he needs to open his weak point 3 times. And he can not quite take as long as he wants to do that, but he will take a little while sometimes. He will jump up, and he can jump up to 3 times before he opens his weak spot. And then before the last hit, he can optionally walk across the arena a full 1 or 2 times, or he can just not do that. Really depends. So, no instant jump there. Okay, so 1 extra jump. So that's average. Each extra jump is like 5 or 6 seconds. Now he's going to give us this next hit for free. If you hit him away from the wall, the next hit will always be free. Which is real nice. Now from here, he can choose to walk once or twice across the arena. Which I really hope he doesn't do because it's really slow. But he might. He's doing it. If he raises his leg low there, you know he's not doing it. But that means I have more time to explain the last phase. So, after you do this last hit here, he's going to be reduced to just the cockpit. And from there he's going to fly around the arena, kind of erratically. We need to hit him 3 times from there. Now, if we are quite good at the game, we could get all 3 of those hits at once, but I have a historically bad success rate with that. I'm gonna try pause buffering to make it easier. Oh, that was so close. But like that. At least we got it, okay? I mean, that's close enough. Double hit's still pretty good. But yeah, getting like a double or triple hit saves like 10 or 11 seconds each time for each hit you save. Even with that little pause buffer I did, it saves time still. The reason I did that pause buffer is because in HD, to get the triple hit to work, you need to do a delayed bounce. And I have a pretty bad success rate in making a delayed bounce work at full speed, so pause buffering to make it work makes it way easier. Just pause buffer, pause like a couple frames after you bop on the enemy, and then you unpause by holding the B button to get a high bounce at the same time. And yeah, it can kind of work. Now we're in the final world. This is a pretty interesting level. Every level in this world is pretty interesting. So, in older runs of this game, I say older as if I wasn't doing any runs like literally like 2 weeks ago. Oh dear, that's not a good start. Well, first time that's killed me in a run. We would use banana juice for this level. Because, as you'll see later on, this level has a lot of damage boosts. I mean, as you're already seeing, this level has a lot of damage boosts. I will need to save one hit here. 50. Oh yeah, how's this gonna work? I've kind of messed myself up here. I'm gonna have to do this really safe. I've not messed this level up in quite some time. I think safest bet here is to wait for this guy. Yeah, I have to take that hit anyway. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna lose Diddy in this level. That'll be fine, I guess. So yeah, I have not done a very good job of it, but you can do this level without the banana juice that you would normally have to use here. If you do that optimally, it saves like 4.5 seconds, both from not having to buy it and also not having to equip it. But to be fair, I didn't die because of not having banana juice. I died just because of a platforming error, and if you fall into a pit, you just lose the banana juice no matter what, so yeah, it wouldn't have made a difference there. But yeah, that could be a little scary without banana juice, but the extra hits you get in modern mode make it possible. So the way this next bit's set up, we've got 2 auto-scrollers in a row. This is a really scary rocket auto-scroller if you're on pace, but we're not on pace for really anything, so it's fairly tame. But this is kind of the hardest auto-scroller in the run, because remember, everything's a one-hit kill. Next level is also an auto-scroller, and neither of these levels have a Diddy barrel in them. And in fact, our next Diddy barrel is not until 8.5. This is 8.2, but skipping 8.4. Our next Diddy barrel is not until the second half of 8.5. But if you keep Diddy in 8.1, you save quite a bit of time in 8.3, and you don't save a whole lot of time in 8.5, but it does make 8.5 way less scary. So we're gonna have to do that without him. It's gonna be a little messy, but like, we can make it work. Won't be the worst thing ever. I've done it many times before. But yeah, that's why it's so good to keep him in these levels. Have a tight squeeze with that fire snake and that rock on the top there. Not having Diddy is like way scarier for the next level than this one, but it loses more time in this level to not have him than it does in the next one. Also, this is like the coolest minecart level in the game, so level's got that going for it. The minecart stuff only really for like the first 2/3 of this level. After that we actually transition into normal gameplay for the rest of it. Which is why Diddy saves a lot of time there. Pretty much from this point onwards we're just platforming. I have not done this one Diddy in a little bit, okay. I will wait here. I don't trust this fireball. Sometimes that fireball gets a cheeky hit on you, which normally isn't a problem, but I am running low on health, so I'm not gonna take my chances. For the record, we are still well under estimate. We are well on pace to be under estimate, like quite a bit, so no worries about that. Despite having like 5 deaths in this run already. Oops, slow menu. We had the Gauntlet Award 5, 5, 2, 3, 4. We had the Gauntlet Award 7, the Switch levels, 7, 5 through 7, 7. We now have the Gauntlet Award 8, 8, 5, 8, 6, and 8, 7. And this is kind of the hardest one of the 3. Definitely the most notorious of the 3, the one you're probably most likely to die in. This level's difficulty is very heavily concentrated in its first half here, which is made harder if you don't have Diddy, like this. Particularly this tower section. Which we absolutely nailed. Nice. And now we get Diddy back, so it's kind of as normal now. It's like A1 never happened. There is still some stuff in the end of this level though. Intentionally doing a slow jump there, because that delay sets me up that delays me the perfect amount to fit just into that little gap there. And if you fit into that gap with like if you fit into that gap about as soon as you can get underneath those fireballs at the end. It's quite tight to do it, you only have like a couple frames leeway. But yeah, that little jump I did, not at roll speed, sets me up the perfect amount for that. Right, now 8-6. There is a global cycle in this level that I really want to hit, so I'm going to try and be quite fast for the beginning of this level. So I can make sure I hit it. Basically, the faster I am in the beginning, the easier my time will be in the middle section. And I nearly got hit there and messed up the whole thing. That was really sketchy, I'm not gonna lie. Should have died like 2 separate times there. Okay, there we go. I cheated death like 4 different times. I am not surprised I finally got there. Okay, that means I get to do the solo DK backup. I was just playing this level in time attack mode last night, so I know how to play as a solo DK. So yeah, these little stone platforms are globally cycled. I'm gonna wait. Health is kind of important here. I really want at least 2 hits left on Diddy, ideally. In effect, that means in original mode you really don't want to get hit at all. But there is no intentional damage in this level, it's all pretty much skill-based, just avoid it. But yeah, the faster you go, the better of a position those stone blocks are in, so yeah, the more likely you are to do that middle section quickly. And this ending looks like an autoscroller, but you might notice we're moving slowly to the right. You might be able to guess what's also at the right, off screen at the moment. We can do something pretty cool. And trust me, that's not as hard as it looks. It's quite easy, actually. That's not like the person who's played the game for several thousand hours saying it's quite easy, actually. It really is not as scary as it looks. There's a very consistent setup you can do. Provided you have enough parts left to take a hit and still have Diddy with you. There is a 100% consistent setup that's quite easy to do. And that saves like 15-ish seconds over waiting the full amount of time. Hopefully no silly deaths here, because I really don't want to lose Diddy. You do not get Diddy back if you die in this level. So yeah, final level before the final boss. You can do all of that beginning movement with solo DK as well, with some like little modifications for the bits where I hover. And yeah, this is the most vertical level in the game. And these levels are very hard to optimize generally. Okay, that was kind of sketchy. I thought I was going to fall all the way down. You can't see it because we're outpacing it, but there is lava chasing us this whole time from the bottom. This volcano is about to erupt. Please do not ever fall down from this point. Oh my god, I just did that. Alright, this means I get to do the backup. Right, I'm gonna try this. Nice, that is the backup that you should never have to do ever, but I just accidentally demonstrated. I promise that was not thrown for content, but... Okay. Not every day you get to show that off. So yeah, if you kill both of those enemies and you are not in the upper half of the level, you have to wait like 30 or 40 seconds for the lava to catch up to you, and then, only when it gets really close to you, will platforms actually spawn there. So yeah, it is really, really slow if you get stuck down at the bottom portion, and I almost had that happen. It's still really slow if you have to back it up like that, but that is like, yeah, like an absolute last resort backup you can do. Alright, final boss. This one's a little unique. We've got about a minute-long autoscroller before the fight, which means I get to explain how the fight works, because this is a pretty complicated fight. Well, it can be a complicated fight. It can also just be really quick and painless, which would be quite funny in a run where my world record finished like 25 seconds ago already, but nonetheless, boss split up into two phases. First phase we need to hit each of his hands twice. In the second phase we need to hit his head 3 times, and the time will end as soon as I land the final hit on his big head. We will get the first hit in the hands phase for free. The first 2 hits actually will be completely free. And then he can decide to just give us a palm facing up to 3 times, each one losing like 4 or 5 seconds. Which is not good, but I can hope we don't get that. So, first hit is free. Sometimes he has his hand low there, sometimes he doesn't. Best to always jump high and just accept the time loss if it's low. Doesn't matter which hand he hits you with there. So now, yeah, palm up, you can't hit him. I don't know if it's faster to actually take the damage there, but usually you just do anyway if he gives you palm up. Huh, I remember the last time I had a Tiki Tongue where only his left hand is remaining. His left, my right. But okay. They gave us palm down a second time. It's quite cool. Right, final phase. I'm gonna explain this quickly. 3 hits. First one's always given to us for free. He can do 2 in a row sometimes. That is a very good attack. He kind of runs on like attack points. So there is... It seems like he can go on forever, but there is only a certain number of attacks he can do. He's going to hit me right here because he's used up his attack points. Kind of a nice way to think about it. He could hit me twice in a row right here, and then the run right here. Oh, very nice of you to do that attack. Get ready on time with like any moment. I think he's going to do this a couple times, and then he's going to give me the final hit. Yeah, this boss can really do like anything. Okay, I think it's the final hit after this. Okay, get ready on time. And... Sorry, that was a really loud spacebar hit. Cool. 139.08 on my end. Yeah. I had 5 deaths in that run. I'm not surprised I didn't quite get, like, I've hit like quite a few 137s recently, but I mean, 5 deaths in a run, obviously you're gonna fall behind a little bit. My world record in this category is 136.25. That is the Switch 1 world record. But it does beat the Switch 2 time converted at the moment. Yeah, this game is really cool. I know I've kind of like mocked the Switch version a little bit because it is a bit of a silly remake in some regards, but this game is super accessible. Like, I would say this is one of the most accessible. Do I want to say most accessible speed games, or just like one of the most accessible like Donkey Kong speed games at the moment? Because there are like a million different ways you can play this game. You can play. There's obviously the Wii, the 3DS, and the Switch versions. You can obviously play Switch on a Switch 1 or Switch 2. You can play Wii on console or an emulator. You can do that with 3D too. There are like a million ways to play this game. There's even a free demo on the Switch eShop, which you can play if you want to try out 3 of the levels and see if you like it or not. I'd say this game is not the hardest thing ever to get into. It's quite a difficult game. Your first couple runs will be rough, probably, in the second half. I mean, even as experienced as I am, I've played this game since like 2020, I still had a really rough second half there, but give it a shot if you think it's cool. And also try Tropical Freeze. Tropical Freeze deserves a shout out too. It was the more popular of the 2 games for quite a while, and then since like 2023 Returns has taken over a little bit, but there's still a community of people, like, it's kind of an underground speed game, or a pair of underground speed games, Returns and Tropical Freeze. They're both really cool games, and I highly encourage you to try them yourself if you're interested. I'm not going to keep you here too much longer. I just want to shout out pretty much everyone in the community. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it for me. I'm going to be commentating the very next run though, so stay around for that if you like my voice for some reason, but also because it's a cool run, so don't want to miss it.
Right, well, thank you very much, Leah. We will go to a short intermission now. Next up, we do have that run, the Super Luigi U Deluxe run. So we'll be back in just a few